The entire first season of Star Wars The Bad Batch is now streaming on Disney Plus. All 16 episodes have now aired. And if you haven't seen any of the episodes yet, there are going to be some spoilers in this review. You have been warned. There's a lot I want to talk about, so without further ado, here we go. As you may recall from the final season of the Clone Wars, we were introduced to Clone Force 99, also known as the Bad Batch, a group of defective clones who didn't exactly follow the orders as the other troopers did, and essentially did their own thing. They went on their own missions, they picked their own jobs, they did their own kinds of damage, whereas the other troopers had maybe a more sophisticated style of fighting. They were more roughhouse-like in nature. And as Order 66 is established, they're a little confused because they don't have the same directives in them, so to see clones suddenly turn on people they've been helping for a long time and essentially take out those targets is a little alarming to them. And eventually, because they're defecting from that particular order, the Empire is after them. Unfortunately, in this circumstance, one of their own, Crosshair, does manage to defect to Order 66, and he becomes an antagonist who is after them. But they also get saddled with a girl named Omega at the same time, who is a female clone from the Camino facility, and she may have some secrets of her own that we'll probably find out in this season. I was very excited for this show. Because of the stuff that I'd seen in the Clone Wars, I thought these characters were really, really cool, and so when there was a whole show announced for them last year, I was pumped out of my mind. I thought, oh god, this is going to be incredible. And right out the gate, let me just say, the best part about this for me are some of the themes that they address in terms of the aftermath of Order 66. Because the perspective is very different. It's a perspective that I actually wanted to see for a while. I was always wondering in my head, like, what was that like? Some of those troopers looking back in Order 66 and being like, what happened there? And yeah, you get some of that in Rebels and things like that, but I meant more specifically the moments right after it was established. And especially from the eyes of Clone Force 99, and then of course you had some stuff with the Clone Wars' final season, what I really like about it is that they're looking upon this and they have no idea what to make of it. Suddenly it's like they're going after targets they don't need to go after, they've never had to go after, and they shouldn't go after. These are good people that they've been helping around the galaxy for years. And so the idea of the Empire being established doesn't sit well with their leader Hunter, especially because he's thinking that this is not what we're meant to do. This is not our protocol. This has never been our mission, and that's why we shouldn't be doing any of this. And eventually, when Crosshair defects, there are questions to be asked, and there are certain decisions that the batch has to make in order to eventually go up against him once that moment comes. And him being a skilled shooter, that could mean instant death for them, but eventually they have to try and get through him in some way. Whenever these things came up in the season, they were easily the most fascinating. I also really love the character dynamics. The stuff that they did with the batch is phenomenal. The chemistry between each member is incredible, which is made even more so because of D. Bradley Baker, who is voicing all the members of the batch, different voices, and it's incredible. The fact that you are basically able to create so many different characters, and at the same time he was able to give each of them a different personality and create different levels of chemistry between them, is genuinely remarkable. And I also really liked Michelle Ang as Omega. I thought she was very, very interesting, and she added a very nice lightness and levity to the entire season, because despite the fact that this is a very dark season, it is dealing with moments after this horrific thing has happened. The Jedi are gone. And right after that, evacuations are happening. People are trying to go to safer places. And they're like, listen, we don't trust this Empire thing. Like, something's up with this. We don't really like that. And so seeing the sort of measures that are being taken into effect, they were very heartbreaking to see. And that's why I really like the bookends of this season. I really like the stuff that it started off with. I really like the stuff that it ended off with, because it brought those two things really, really well together, and they were the highlights of the entire season. There is stuff in the middle, though, where I feel like the show suffers a bit. Right around episode 5, in order to make more money and in order to get more jobs, they have to look for people. Eventually they run into a character named Sid, who is basically an underworld figure, and she basically gives them jobs to do, and as they do it, they'll get paid, and eventually they'll be able to continue making their way in the galaxy. Now, there is some character development to be had in these moments too, like in between missions, you'll have a better connection of sorts established between Hunter and Omega, which I found to be really awesome. Being that they're siblings, there was a sort of sibling relationship that was established between them as it went on. In fact, it started off as like a father and daughter thing, but at the end of the day, they're siblings, so, I mean, I just saw it as a brother and sister thing. Maybe I'm wrong here. Unfortunately, every time it reverted back to the Sid stuff, it became very mission of the week like, you know how those shows, there would always be that thing, like a detective show or something like that. Here's the villain of the week. We have to stop him from doing something. We have to stop her from doing something. All right, we will do this. And then by the end of the episode, they would eventually figure out how to catch the villain and they would, save the day. And then the next episode, the next week would be a whole different case, a whole new character. That's kind of how this felt for a while, because every episode in the middle, for the most part, seemed to have a beginning, middle, and end. And then the next episode used to start off with something completely different. And so arcs that were established within those episodes ended within those episodes and then would move on to something else completely different in the next episode. Sometimes it just felt so disjointed and detached from everything else and from the main core story that I oftentimes felt like those are episodes that were added in rather than something that felt like a natural flow. Now that's, like I said, it's not to say there aren't great moments in it. There is some great fan service here and there. You get some nice stuff with Rex from the Clone Wars, as you may know. You get some scenes with Fennec Shand, as you may know her from The Mandalorian, and voiced by Ming-Na as well in this. And there's other characters that show up as well, like Hera Syndulla. But the problem is that after a while, it just feels like it keeps the stories a lot more contained than it should. There are so many different possibilities to explore here, and so many of those themes, like I said, are established really early on, that those take a backseat as a result of just having this more, here's the fun action bit of the week and here's the next one. I just feel like it was a missed opportunity, and a major missed opportunity at that. And so it ended up making the season feel not only smaller, it ended up making it feel a little too prolonged. Nothing was as tightly paced as I think it could have been. It just felt like it was going through the motions there in the middle. If it wasn't for the bookends of these, of the season, if it wasn't for the first few episodes being dynamite and then the last few episodes being dynamite, if it wasn't for those things, then I feel like there could have been a much more mediocre season here. As it stands, it's still fine. I didn't hate any of the episodes. I just feel like there was a lack of focus. And I feel like there was some things that were completely omitted as a result of it. For instance, there is something established about Omega very early on in the season that they try to keep hinting at, like she's someone very important. There's something to her that is so grand, that is so key. But that doesn't really go anywhere. It just seems to come in, that plot line, and then it's gone. And so they never really addressed that. I'm not really sure exactly what they're building to or what they're trying to play at with that. Maybe they'll address it more in season 2, which seems to be a case for a lot of things here, because it feels like a lot of things were set up here only to be given a deeper analysis once we get to season 2. But I don't really know how to feel about that. That sort of feels like a loophole for this season to exist, and then eventually if this one is good, the next one comes out, which it is. It's just, I don't know. So yeah, I was kind of all over the place with this season, but there are things that I still enjoy about it more. There are positives that outweigh the negatives for sure. Like I said, there is a good chunk of episodes that I really like of this, but I just wish that stuff was streamlined a little bit more in the middle. I wish there was a more focused storytelling edge to it. I wish there was a better sense of the character development that went beyond little moments here and there. I wish there was a little more poignancy to them. While the action was really, really impressive throughout, I just think that there could have been, well, like I said, like just a tighter show. So season 2 hopefully will be that. I'm going to give Star Wars The Bad Batch season 1 a B-. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. I'll also have a review of Coda, which is a movie on Apple TV, up this weekend. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.